All right, guys, we are live. Welcome, welcome. Hey, B. Hayes, long time no see. I'm sure I have a few, or they will pour in over the next several minutes there, Brian. So good to hear from you, man, though. I haven't seen you much around in a while. It's okay if you watch afterwards. I know not everyone can watch when I stream. Real quick, guys, if you are coming in or you're joining, you can also watch on Entropy or D Live if you do not like Google supported streaming services. And also over there, you can donate with no barriers to me or you. If you'd like to make a donation to the channel, you can do that. I also have a subscribe star if you want to do that. Otherwise, the biggest way you can help me out is to share this, like, subscribe, all those things. Boomer audio. But say, if that's true, let me know if my audio's sounding weird. Okay, I see it right now. Well, the easiest way for me to correct that, and Brian, let me know if the audio is still bad. The easiest way to correct that is to stop streaming over on D Live until I get that situated, which I guess I'm going to have to run through my graphics card in the future. So D Live is down, but you can still follow me on Entropy. In any case, guys, I don't want to hem-haw around things too long here. I have a lot to talk about today, and obviously, as I brought up the stream, you guys know I want to talk about Karlyn Borysenko and this stance that she took, which I'm actually not completely against. I believe there's truth in what she's saying, but then she turned around and said anyone talking about using the terminology anti-whiteness is just cloaking white supremacy. And then, of course, today she said, well, now on her video, she said, I'm not talking about everybody. So, Val says it sounds fine. You said the audio's great. Okay. I think I did get an error message, though, guys. I did get an error message. I think when I stream over on D Live as well, it splits the stream, the bit rate, something with it screws everything up. So it is what it is. It's whatever. In any case, so before I get into this, I'm not here to be polemic, meaning I am not here to have a big, hateful takedown of Karlyn. That's not in any way, shape, or form what I want to do. It's not a thing that I am interested in with other YouTubers. I'm not really interested in things like debate, generally speaking, because I find those to be more polemic than they need to be. It's more drama. But I'll read to you real quickly, real briefly, what I wrote in the description of this video, and hopefully I could stick to this. It says, Dr. Karlyn Borysenko, in a case of motivated reasoning, which I believe that's what she's experiencing, she's motivated to fight against racism, therefore she's making certain reasons for that talking about how CRT focuses on white people is bringing about a white supremacist movement. Now, I don't agree with that, although I do understand the slippery slope that is possible. But I also understand what these people, the white positive people, are about. And Karlyn's trying to say that that is 100%, or at least she was over the weekend, trying to say that that is white supremacy. And of course, it is not. We wouldn't say that about any other group being positive about themselves. So it says, what else did I write here? It says, Dr. Karlyn Borysenko, in a case of motivated reasoning, has aligned herself against all individuals who state CRT is anti-white. While I agree with her assessment that CRT is metaphysically merely about power, as it is a postmodernist-based philosophy, she lacks understanding of how these tactics play out in reality for both children and adults, or how some have organized the fight to fight CRT by rejecting the notion of white guilt. I'm not trying to make a polemic case, but merely be fair to all parties so that the viewer may decide. Now, when I'm talking about children and adults, I'm talking about this on an emotional basis because human beings act not rationally, but emotionally. And one of the faults on the liberty side of things, on the right, if you would, even though I don't like that false dichotomy of left-right, I use it often because it's parlance. What you have to understand is that these folks who are liberty-minded or on the right do not make emotional arguments. They make logical arguments, and that is part of the reason why they don't get anything done. The other thing is they often cede ground to the left. And the anti-white movement, as far as I can tell, is trying not to cede ground, but change the language and the lexicon in favor of their beliefs, just like the left has. They're using their tactics against them. Now, again, I understand how this could be a tactical mistake for some people. I've talked about this at length with Yiz before, because when I go to DC, using the language of anti-whiteness is seen much like Karlyn sees it. It is seen as white supremacy, like the meme of "it's okay to be white," or even "all lives matter." These things are not white supremacy. What they are they are juxtapositions to the racial supremacy movement on the left. Now, I get that there is within identitarian politics a potential for the other side, whatever that might be, in whatever way, to counteract it with similar tactics that are supremacist. But I don't think that that is what's really going on here. Now, there might be some who believe that, who want to be, Richard Spencer types, who want racial segregation and all kinds of other things. But that is not in any way, shape, or form anything that I have seen out of these folks. So let's continue with this statement. She understands that humans are emotionally motivated, yet fails to be self-aware enough to know that she is making an emotional argument against those who feel they have been disenfranchised by all the major institutions for being of European descent. These people feel legitimately oppressed, and her response is that those folks are simply racist in disguise who are dog whistling to some secret white supremacist movement without evidence. And her evidence, I will show you in her tweets, is, see, this person said they're white positive. This is white supremacy, folks. No, it is not. But that is what CRT has done to this mindset, and that is what, or to the people in their mindsets. And that is what wokeism, postmodernism, and all these things have done. Feminism, whatever else. Karlyn doesn't realize how indoctrinated she actually is to automatically assume the other is this way. It is like she was afraid to go into a Trump rally thinking they were all racist and found out otherwise. Well, she hasn't interacted with these people. She has deliberately blocked them. This is not an intellectually honest pursuit by her. This is her saying, I believe this, and if you don't believe this, you're my enemy. Well, I don't operate that way, Karlyn. And I'm not trying to be polemic. I would love to speak with you. I've reached out to you several times. I just reached out to you the other week talking about the New Hampshire Libertarian Party stuff. I would like to have a legitimate, real conversation, but I don't believe, based on the evidence I've seen over the last couple of days, that you're interested in that. And it's a shame, because I think you are a good source of criticism of the left. I'm a fan of yours to some degree. Now, when I stop watching Karlyn is when she gets into all this drama stuff, which she does quite often. And then I'll go away for a while and I'll come back and watch her stuff. And this happens often. I'll show you guys this as well. All right. So back to the statement. For those folks disenfranchised by CRT, it is a matter of understanding where the language of race leads. CRT has a large amount of rhetoric that is directly focused on demonizing whites, which is reminiscent of 1930 propaganda in Germany. And it is against a certain ethnic minority. I've been saying this for some years, and it absolutely 100% is. If it wasn't, Peter Boghossian, Heather Penrose, and James Lindsay would not have been able to get into a feminist journal, a supposed scientific journal, portions of Mein Kampf that simply replace Jew with white male. The parallels are enormous. It must be understood. And it's not about, in the end, She's right. It's not about racism. It's about power. But they're using racism as a vehicle to power. Do you understand that, Karlyn? They are using racism as a vehicle to power. In response to many folks that have taken on certain philosophy called going clear. That is, going clear, the Jason Kunez language, lexicon. Now, I don't operate within the sphere, but I have friends who do, like Yiz the eunuch. Excuse me. And again, I understand where they're coming from and what they're saying. I also understand certain people, white folks, are going to have visceral reactions to it initially because they don't understand what is going on there. I state here, these are dialectic tools to help people reframe the world away from an ominous anti-white rhetoric. These racialized demonizations are not exclusive to any culture, as we all know the tragic story of Rwanda and countless others throughout history. This isn't necessarily about race, but it is about that white people have been the target. And I get the deeper argument that CRT is racist to everybody. I would agree with that. And I also get the deeper argument that they don't really believe in race because it's a social construct. None of that matters. You're creating a genetic fallacy. That's like going back and say, well, CRT is just a legal scholarship. Sure, that's called a genetic fallacy. I will break this down here later on. That means that despite of understanding what the thing is now, we're talking about what it was 40, 50 years ago. Well, 40, 50 years ago, it might have been something different. But that label and term is applied to something that is practically happening today that is maybe slightly different than before. Its roots are in that original legal scholarship. And of course, that was the big era of postmodernism, and all these ideas in academia have been thrown together. The whole point of this really is active measures and demoralization and to fracture and divide everybody. And unfortunately, the Republicans do this all the time, or the right, or the liberty-minded people. Now, Karlyn talked about Cassandra Fairbanks and Cassandra Fairbanks going after her. I will address this some more. And one of her responses was, I haven't been on the right forever, blah, 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 blah. I'm a libertarian now. Okay, whatever. Everybody considers libertarianism on the right. No one on the left thinks of libertarianism on the left. The only people who don't think that libertarians aren't on the right are libertarians. Trust me, I come from there. I know. And in fact, I'm very sympathetic to libertarian thought and idea. Most of my ideas are of that ilk, but I don't associate with that philosophy or those people because, well, they're utterly corrupted and they don't get anything done. So here, anyways, getting back to what I said, without evidence, Karlyn has stated that these people verbally defended themselves from verbally defending themselves from attacks via media, academia, the federal as well as local governments, and fellow citizens are covert white supremacists. She's not shown a single statement that can be construed as such, but claims statements such as white well-being are supremacist. That is to reinstate, folks concerned with their ethnic and cultural in-group are now overtly white supremacist, according to Karlyn. Karlyn has blocked and deleted nearly all dissent to her own misguided opinion. She is insisting that journalist Cassandra Fairbanks is organizing her minions to cancel Karlyn. This is a paranoid delusion, in my opinion, unless she can show me DMs or something, because what she showed as evidence of that is non-existence. It was literally Cassandra's tweet and then her claiming that her minions are going after her. She even has suggested Tim Pool, who is employing Cassandra and has been friends with her for many years, should fire her for being a white supremacist. Again, no evidence other than a tweet is presented, which states no such thing. And Tim has known Cassandra for like a decade. I don't think he's going to fire her, and I'm pretty sure he knows who she is. Now, let me address Tim real quick, because Tim tells you if you go into a meeting and they're trying to teach CRT at work and they tell you that you're racist because you're white, to file a complaint with the federal government that they're being racist toward you. I would agree. So I really, with that kind of mindset, and Tim did 2 segments today, he sort of talked about this stuff. With that kind of mindset, I don't think that Tim is going to fire Cassandra anytime soon. I think Karlyn is way off base, and she's too prideful and has doubled down on her position. She's too prideful to realize maybe she made a big, big mistake that she should probably walk back. It seems like today she sort of has walked it back a little, tiny bit. I didn't watch her full video. She pulled up some article that is proof to her, apparently, because she was calling on journalists last night. Yeah, whatever. Anyways, again, I'll get into it. Let me finish reading this. Dr. Karlyn seems to either need to create drama or revert back to her prior days of believing all Trump supporters are liberally minded individuals or evil, secret, racist bigots. In this particular case, Karlyn is being the bigot, with her Gnostic understanding of the inner secrets of these everyday folks. I did not mince my words there, folks. She is being bigoted, that is closed-minded to other people's opinions, who I'm pretty sure are not racist. Maybe some of them are, but I don't think the majority of them are. But even if they were, I would make this concession. Even if they were, if they are not acting out and doing things to suppress other people, I don't really care what their inner secret thoughts are. I'm not here to thought police people. I care about your actions. And as far as Gnosticism, yeah, she thinks she has secret knowledge because, she's had a few people tweet her. And trust me, guys, I'm in all kinds of internet forums. I mean, memes. I see the racist jokes. I see the racist people in there. They do exist. It's not the majority of them, I don't think. And also, it's like the internet, guys. How much of that is really, truly serious? Some of it might be. I think a lot of it is people like to be edgy when they can. Just like they like to do crazy stuff when they play Grand Theft Auto, but never would do it in real life. This isn't a takedown of Karlyn. I've supported her in her work in the past. It is a matter of speaking the truth and addressing the record and baseless accusations. I will point to where Karlyn is right and where she is wrong. I will present evidence for my case in breaking down the logical fallacies which she is committing. I would personally love to have a conversation with Karlyn, but as I've reached out to her several times in the past with no response, I doubt any new effort will be effective as she is currently blocking all dissenters or folks who are simply trying to educate her. I'm sure knowing and having relationships with individuals who use the language of no white guilt and going free would also be enough in Karlyn's book to label me a racist. I will address that here with my religious beliefs in a moment. This, of course, is absurd and a collectivist mentality based on primitive, tribal, divisive thinking. Association does not impugn guilt, nor do I believe the majority of individuals in the no white guilt movement are motivated to oppress anyone. Regardless, I will do my best to be fair and judicious to Karlyn. The number one problem with the liberty movement is the idiotic infighting, and I mean that. You guys need to stop. It's ridiculous. You're watching your entire nation, or those of you who are foreign, your other nations that you live in, whatever. We're watching this all over the Western world. We're watching our nations being destroyed and burned down while the globalists gain more and more power and implement this great reset. I think there are bigger fish to fry than your stupid little freaking peeves about who uses what language. I'm not here to police language. I think that is gross and disgusting. You don't police people's language. You let them speak how they do. You can make whatever opinion you want about it, but you just do not do it. Because bad ideas are defeated with good ideas. And who is the arbiter of truth? Now, I will tell you that Christ is the arbiter of truth, but most of you don't know him or don't care or whatever. So fine. But it ain't no man on earth, I can tell you that right now. And finally, I say, a house divided cannot stand, and the kingdom of Satan will devour us all via petty factions and inflated egos. So that's what I have to say about that. All right. Let's see. Yes, this should be running on Entropy B. Hayes. That's right. New Hampshire is your neck of the woods. I forgot. It's been a long time since we talked, buddy. Um, but no worries. So, okay, guys, I'm glad you stayed with me through all that so far. This is why I started just slightly a little bit early, because I know this is going to be a big one. So let me just state some things real quick. From the 2nd century, Justin Martyr. This is the first Christian apologist. He's named Justin Martyr because he willingly went to his death. But the word martyr actually means testimony. So his writings are very important to the early church. And it says, "We who hated and destroyed one another, and on account of their different manners, would not live with men of different tribe. Now, since the coming of Christ, live familiarly with them, and pray for our enemies, and endeavor to persuade those who hate us unjustly to live comfortably to the good precepts of Christ, to the end that they may become partakers with us in the same joyful hope of the reward from God, the ruler of all." Now, the point of bringing this up is, he said that we used to hate different tribes, and we no longer do. We who formerly used to murder one another do not only now refrain from making war upon our enemies, but also that we may not lie nor deceive our examiners, willingly die confessing Christ. And concerning our being patient of injuries, and ready to serve all, and free from anger, this is what he says: "To him that smites you on one cheek, offer the other, and to him that takes away your cloak or coat, forbid not. And whoever shall be angry is in danger of the fire. And everyone that compels you to go with him a mile, follow him for 2. And let your good works shine before men, that they, seeing them, may glorify your Father which is in heaven." That is all in Matthew chapter 5. "For we ought not to strive either as he desired us to be imitators of wicked men, but he as exhorted us to lead all men by patience and gentleness, from shame and from love of evil. And this indeed is provided in the case of many who once were your way of thinking, but have changed their violent and tyrannical dispositions, being overcome either by their consistency with which they have witnessed in their neighbors' lives, or by their extraordinary forbearance they have observed in their fellow travelers." He's talking about Christians who are just travelers on this earth, folks. That was the original understanding. "When defrauded, or by the honesty of those who have been transacted business." So the point here is that Christians are to refrain from violence, evil, wickedness, and you might make the argument, which you definitely would be correct historically, that Christians did participate in some evil things, but I also would say that they weren't in the kingdom of God. And again, I could come back. I mentioned genetic fallacies earlier. We could say that that's a genetic fallacy because of what Christianity is today. I reject modern Christianity. So just like certain people in CRT reject modern CRT. And that's why I'm always careful to say I try to focus in on a 1st, 2nd century, maybe even 3rd century Christian perspective as best to my ability. So with that, I want to read to you from Matthew chapter 5, the beginning, and the Beatitudes, when Christ gave the law from the mountain like Moses. This is the Sermon on the Mount. And the Beatitudes means a blessing. Christ is blessing these people. But these are also, folks, these are commandments. Everything given here in the Sermon on the Mount are commandments to Christians. "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." That is someone who is not like a mouse, not someone mousy, afraid to stand up. It's someone who can be humble when need to be, can basically quell their spirit in the presence of someone greater, right? "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness," meaning those who strive to be good folks, "for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. And I'm trying to give Karlyn mercy here. Guys, I'm not here to outright attack her or tell you to bombard her or anything. I don't have that kind of following anyways. I'm just saying that she's not correct in this issue. I have plenty of evidence to bring up to show where she is not. Now, she actually technically is correct as far as the whole of CRT, but there's a difference between technicalities and realities. We have to understand how the majority of folks see it, and I'll give you examples of that, and how it comes across, how it emotionally appeals to people, versus the reality of the left and how they try to obfuscate it. As Tim Pool often says, the left will say, "Oh, no one's trying to take your guns." Yeah, yet you guys think that that conservative folks who want to limit abortions are trying to take away your abortions. See, the logic fails on its face quite simply as soon as you apply something they care about. So, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. That is, those who are tried to be pure, who have the inner man changed. It's not what comes into a man, but what goes out of him. For they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers. Peacemakers, folks. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to make peace. I doubt it will be fruitful. My channel's too small. I don't think Karlyn will engage with me. But I'm going to make the case anyways. I'm going to make the point. For they shall be called sons of God. That's actually important language there. The sons of God. That's a very important thing. That's a class of folks that have a direct relationship with God, needing no priest in the lineage of Christ. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sakes, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when you are reviled and persecuted, and they say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice exceedingly, be glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For they also persecuted the prophets before you. They most certainly did. They most certainly did. Let's see. I got Dalhuck come in. Hey, how are we doing? I didn't see that. Sam, hey, how you doing, man? Appreciate you guys being here. If you missed the first few minutes, I just kind of went over what I'm going to be talking about, which is obvious. Kind of addressed how I described this. You know what? I just realized I didn't do. See if I can do it real quick without messing everything up. I didn't put any links in the description. So let me see. Should be able to live edit this real quick. I'm going to put the entropy at the top in case anybody wants to watch over there. I turned off the D-Live, guys, if you weren't here earlier, because it said the audio was being screwed up. It does that from time to time with the bit rate. And I really probably need to configure my second stream out of OBS to D-Live via my graphics card. So I guess eventually I'll get on that. I'm trying to get by without having to do technical stuff. But whatever. All right, guys. So again, to the point of stop the infighting from Kimberly Klasick. While conservatives are going back and forth with each other on social media, including me, Stacey Abrams, and company, are registering voters in Georgia and recruiting candidate volunteers. 2022 is right around the corner. We can't afford to lose. Stop with the infighting. So Karlyn tweeted this out just the other day. We're going to go down this little thread from James Lindsay. It is inaccurate to say that critical race theory is anti-white racism. It is accurate to say that it contains anti-white racism and enables and increases it. It would also be fair to say that anti-white racism is one of the two guiding lights, the other being POC grifters. So he's saying the whole of CRT is not anti-white racism. It's about power. Karlyn was right about that. But it's basic engine, its basic methodology to accelerate that is anti-white racism. So it's almost like she's sitting here saying, well, this is going to create a white supremacist movement because you're talking about white pride and white people unifying and whatever else and getting connected to your heritage and understanding that these people are coming after you. I don't see that. There's no one organizing in the streets. By the way, the KKK, that's a left-wing invention, right? That's part of the Democrats. Richard Spencer voted for Joe Biden for a reason. If you look at all of his policies, they're all leftist Democrat-style policies. He believes your rights come from the government, not from God. I'm pretty sure most of the liberty-minded people don't believe that. Pretty sure. Let's go through this thread. Continuing, critical race theory actually manages to be racist against every race, vigorously so, because it holds up whiteness as a cultural phenomenon that is evil in exactly the same way that Marxism believes capitalism is evil. This produces the above effect. Yes, agreed, James. These are all technically true. Perceiving technicalities, though, is not, again, the same as how people perceive things emotionally. We can get into the technical lexicon of things about CRT. It doesn't matter in the grassroots ground level. It matters only in optics of who you're talking to, which is why if I go into DC and talk to a bunch of libertarian or conservative think tank people, I don't use this the go freestyle language because they are threatened by it. They think it's supremacy like Karlyn. That's a misplaced belief. The branch of critical race theory called whiteness studies, which is disclaimed Mott and Bailey style, anytime CRT gets scrutiny, holds that white people cannot actually escape whiteness in the existing, not liberated socialist society. So anti-white racism is tied in. Key point there. The existing, not liberated socialist society. So this wouldn't matter in a socialist society once they had power and control. So again, Karlyn was right about that. But again, she's not correct about the optics. She's only correct about the optics from her enlightened centrist point of view. By the way, folks, feel free in the chat. If you're in the chat and you disagree with anything I'm saying, please challenge it. I will try to address it. And again, I'm not trying to be polemic. I'm not here to hate on anybody or fight against anybody. I'm here to state the case, make my point. The POC grifter, incentive, affirmative action, equity, redistribution, justice reparations, forces critical race theory into being racist against people of color by positioning themselves as victim and painting them up in opposition to whiteness, which contains many positive virtues. So whiteness contains positive virtues. But that's a social construct, Bill, so it's not about your skin tone. Yeah, I know. I know how it works. You're an Uncle Tom if you're black and you believe in liberty values. I get it. You're a race traitor, though, now, aren't you? That's what those people say. Race is the center of everything because race is about power. And those races have been suppressed. And then there is a black pride movement that tells them that melanin actually gives them magical powers. Like I'm not making this up, folks. You can go look and study this yourselves. The melanin gives them magical powers because they have chloroform in their skin, like plants, and they can get energy through the sun and a bunch of crazy nonsense. My assessment is that CRT produces and acts and is guided by anti-white racism, but for the reason that it's useful to its actual goal of tearing down the existing society along an axis of weakness to make way for a liberation socialist revolution. Too long didn't read. It's neo-Marxism using race, not racism, using neo-Marxism, but from one adherent to the next. Right. So basically, he negated his first statement, but he didn't because it's nuanced. But basically, he's saying that, as I stated, that race is the mechanism in which they are implementing this power structure. The end. And it's also religious, folks. Wokeism is the new popular religious cult. Footage from one of their services. Now, I've talked about this often. James Lindsay does. All kinds of people do. But, hold on. My mouse is getting screwy on here. But, let's look at it. Let me get this sized up right.
About racism, anti-blackness, or violence. About racism, anti-blackness, or violence. I will use my voice in the most... About racism, anti-blackness, or violence. About racism, anti-blackness, or violence. I will use my voice in the most uplifting way possible. I will use my voice in the most uplifting way possible. And do everything in my power to educate my community. I will love my black neighbors the same as my white ones. I will love my black neighbors the same as... About racism,
Now, if you guys don't find that disturbing, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not sure why you watch my channel. Let's go down here. A lot of these people need this level of reprogramming. Indeed, the more people together making positive affirmations, the more powerful the change. Look at all those Karens needing to reprogram their hateful, judgmental ways. If it doesn't resonate for you, then it's not for you. No, it really isn't. It really is not. So from June 17th, let's look at some of Karlyn's tweets. We're going to go through here. I'm going to show you some of her videos. We're going to talk about a lot, guys. Hopefully I will be able to get this done in the next hour and a half or so. The fact that people truly believe that CRT is anti-white is a failure of how it's been taught and discussed by the effing intellectuals who were more interested in impressing each other than actually fixing the problem. Okay, I don't know about all that. You tweeted out James Lindsay, who then, in the end, said neo-Marxism is using race, not racism using neo-Marxism. But, right, it's not racism using neo-Marxism. It's neo-Marxism using race as a vehicle to power, Karlyn. And the no white guilt movement is about not allowing that vehicle via dialectics to take over the mindset of white people who would otherwise be shamed and sit in that group I just showed and talk mantras to their new god of wokeism. So the teach says, respectfully, this is how you define CRT. I agree with this definition. If not white people who are responsible for the racism that CRT insists is ever present and all around this, how can this be interpreted without pointing to white people is the problem? And of course, he has a tweet here. Critical race theory is an ideology started in academia in the 1970s that says racism exists everywhere in every person and system. And the job of the critical race theorist is to assess how, if not racism, occurred in any circumstances. Racism is always assumed to have occurred. Yes, right. But again, genetic fallacy. Let's not go back to the legal scholarship. Because what is it today? Like, again, I will use the example of Christianity. I don't compare Calvinism to 1st and 2nd century Christianity. It has nothing to do with it. Calvinism's roots are in Augustinianism, Lutheran, and John Calvin. Now, Augustine was a 5th century Christian. Had nothing to do with the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd century Christians. The beliefs were quite different. Yeah, here it says CRT types are like a bunch of you. Do you even lift bros at the gym making gains and then going back to work selling phones and Boost Mobile? They love big muscles, but they never worked a labor intensive job. Yeah, I don't know about all these quotes and these different tweets, but in any case, let's go to Karlyn's page, for instance. Well, let's see here. I got a bunch of these guys, but so here was the thing that she responded to Cassandra Fairbanks, but it was after all this other nonsense came up. Let's see. Here is Karlyn's actual Twitter page. In the last month, every time I meet with a group about CRT, there has been at least one person focusing on anti-whiteness. This rhetoric has been pushed into mainstream because actual white supremacists are attaching themselves to the anti-CRT movement using it. I don't know about that. And here she has this impromptu stream. There might be people in there, but Karlyn says in the stream that she did today, in the beginning of it, that this has just come about in last month. This is absolutely absurd. Our friend Yiz the Eunuch has been streaming about this stuff for a long time, and I'm more than certain I have nearly a year-old relationship with her, and I don't think that Yiz believes in any sort of racial superiority. She just wants white people to not be oppressed. And of course, this is something that Tim covered. What is white racial identity? Blah, 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 blah. Here we go. White identitarian sounded like the woke. I've just learned that I'm not white. So the woke thing, I'm too white. The white identitarians think I'm not white enough. Guess I'll have to hang out with the white people in the middle. What's it say? Your reverence for journalists and influencers sometimes not, or say sometimes something that is not shared by the majority of white people, including those who consume your media. This is a fundamental difference between you and us that marks you out as not white. That's interesting. I don't know who Jenny Adams is, but again, I guess I can't just go through. Well, this is the article she brought up today from the American Conservative. I'll bring that up later. Pointing to an article that someone wrote worried about the same things you're worried about is not proof of your case either. Let's just move on the way I had this. I don't know if this statement is about Karlyn, but I think it is from that. But I could be wrong. But basically, if you go to Cassandra Fairbanks' Twitter this weekend, she was talking about vegans and farming and how cities need the federal subsidies to have the food brought in. And that's basically what I saw there. But here's a comment. It says, the left does whatever it wants, and the cowards in the GOP are too scared of being called racist to stop them. I can't wait to see what they are allowed to do next. And this, again, is part of going clear the no white guilt, or going free, that is, the no white guilt movement, is not being worried about being called a racist when you know that you aren't. And Cassandra said, can the left take her back? Ooh, anyone else says critical race theory is anti-white, you're going to get blocked. That was Karlyn's tweet. And then there are 101 different, messages in there that people talk about this. This is the tweet I just brought up. How is saying CRT is specifically anti-white racist? And we see this over and over again through these threads. People asking her. She said she would just block them. But you don't fight racism with more racism, she says. Well, is white well-being racist? Are you saying that black pride is racist then too? I know we could talk in terms of humanity, Karlyn. What I am asking is, why is this racist? You have not yet to explain it. You have no proof. If you truly believe that it's okay to support what I show you on this stream, you are fighting racism by creating more racism, and it's going to all end very badly. I think what they're doing, Karlyn, is saying we need to unify as people and not be pushed around and divided. And what you're doing right now is creating more division. Then she says, maybe Joe Biden is right when he says white supremacy is the biggest threat, but I don't think he is right for the right reason. No, Karlyn. He's right because the FBI is trying to stir this up so they can get their plans across. But this is stuff you have your head in the sand about because you're too worried about mainstream thought. See, I don't care. This is why I name my channel All Minus One. I don't care if everyone in the world tells me I'm wrong. I know what is true, and I'm speaking to you the truth. The truth is that the federal government weaponizes these things and have been going on about white supremacy for years when the actual biggest threat are racial identitarians on the left. That is clear. Based in CRT, right? Postmodernism, intersectional feminists, and whatever other Marxist ideologies you want to throw in that grab bag. Here we go. Timcast, we've had our differences, but no effing around. Your new editor, Cassandra, is supporting this, either implicitly or explicitly. Maybe she doesn't realize it. I have no idea, but please look into this and do the right thing. The rhetoric around it needs to stop. I think Tim's going to say no. Been watching him for a long time. I don't think he takes kindly to people telling him what to do. Josh says, after all, they was gangs. It wasn't Europeans who crossed the Mediterranean and built the pyramids. Oh, hey, Brian, glad you're back. Going back to the days of national salvation, eh? So again, I'm just going to read. I want to show a few tweets. I'll show some of her videos, a little bit of what she says. You guys are probably aware of this, but then I'm going to show you juxtapositions here. And again, Karlyn's not completely wrong. Where she's wrong at is basically labeling anyone who is calling this anti-whiteism, which, again, she's sort of backed away from today from what I've seen, or saying that people in these movements are white supremacists. I don't see it. I don't see it. I wouldn't be harping on this if I thought it was just happening on the dark corners of 4chan. This is making its way into the mainstream. Karlyn, you're like lost. This has been around mainstream for far longer than you realize. You think this just happened in the last month. Perhaps you should actually study what these people are saying, read their books, follow their channels, that kind of stuff. I would just suggest this for you. The reason why people are coming after you right now is because you've made this very hard stance that they completely vehemently disagree with, that you haven't justified, and you basically are like, anyone who disagrees with me, I'm going to block. You just got done complaining about Gilletta of the New Hampshire Libertarian Party doing such things. You just got done the other week complaining about Heather Penrose blocking you when you were trying to have an honest conversation. Do you have any consistency within your standards? And I get it. I do believe there is a reason to cut people out of your lives, right? There's no reason why you have to put up with anyone coming at you over anything. But if you're going to make whole videos talking about how Heather Penrose blocked you, or how Gilletta kicked everyone out of the Libertarian Party in a unilateral move, did you not just do the same thing? Did you not just label everyone who uses the terminology anti-white or anti-whiteness, who uses anything like that, like white well-being, did you not just label all of those people as others? As the bad guys? I think you really need to get your philosophy straight. And again, I would love to talk to you about this. I would love to have a conversation, a very, cordial conversation. I'm not trying to be a jerk here. I just don't agree with this stance. So I'm not going to sit here and make fun of you and take pot shots and do demagoguery and ad hominems and all these other things. I'm not trying to straw man you either. In fact, I would very much like to hear your case, and here you steel man the case of these people on the other side. Because what you've done is you've completely made a straw man out of things that you're basically ignorant of. And it was stupid. And I mean that in the literal sense of the word. You know better. You know better as a organizational psychologist. You know that people go off of their emotions. They make decisions based on appeals to emotion and authority. And yet you don't understand this? I've seen a lot of comments like this on my channel recently, and it was confusing to me at first, but now I get what's happening. This is the actual white power movement attaching itself to the anti-CRT movement. Okay. Okay, Karlyn. I really used to like Karlyn and her work against CRT, but this isn't helping anyone or anything. This whole thing just seems to get pettier and further away from what's important. 100%. And Karlyn really does seem to like the drama and pettiness. And again, Karlyn, defend yourself. Please have a conversation with me. If I doubt you'll ever see this, but if you see this video and you want to defend yourself on your own, fine, whatever, fine. If you think you're not being petty, a lot of people do. So maybe you should look at the optics of others. And you could say, I don't care. I mean, I know what it is to be hard-headed. I'm a hard-headed individual myself. But I think for your saving grace, it would do you well to have a conversation with somebody who's kind of in the middle of this, because I agree with you and I agree with them. I agree with both sides. And I actually agree with you on the optics that we should focus more on how it is just, dehumanizing to all folks. But again, it's the emotional arguments. And again, you should understand this based on your PhD studies and professional career. Karlyn, I'm sorry, but you're using the same arguments as those crazy SJWs who scream, words are violence, and try to cancel everyone who doesn't agree with them. You are right that CRT is about power, but it's also about race, because that is the most literal way people understand it. CRT is meant to be translated in terms of race because whiteness from the white race is vilified. Oh, this is just, according to Karlyn, according to this tweet, these are just dog whistles. So James Lindsay must be dog whistling. James Lindsay, according to Karlyn now, is a racist. Do you understand how this logic plays out, Karlyn? You posted this tweet. You retweeted it. I saw it from your Twitter. I don't like any of this drama, by the way. I'm not doing this because I want to get involved with drama or make a big splash or cause whatever. I'm doing this because it's absurd. And you have a lot of influence and are right now creating a lot of enemies, saying a lot of stuff about a lot of people. I don't think you understand it. I don't think you understand at all. You've been on the liberty side of things for about 2 minutes. All right? I've been here for over 15 years. Now, this isn't a matter of me pulling rank or seniority. I'm just saying, I've been an independent since as long as I've been registered here in West Virginia, because for a while I kind of lived in both states. But I've been an independent as long as that. I've basically voted as an independent since 2008, even though I was still technically a registered Republican. I just never changed my registration. I've been vehemently calling out the nonsense from the neocons and the rhinos for years. Now, I don't really use Facebook anymore, nor am I going to try and dox myself and give all my information out there, but it's all over my Facebook. I am a classical liberal. Go watch my stuff on this channel. You'll see what I stand for pretty quickly. Go read Bastiat's The Law. That's basically my political beliefs. I'm also a Christian in the light of the 1st and 2nd century, as I say. I don't believe in excluding other people. I believe that all men are made in the image of God and have a potential to be within the kingdom of God. But what you have done As you've said, James Lindsay is a racist now too, because all he's saying is the same thing this person said here. What they're trying to do is paint me as a crazy person for publicly talking about this stuff, make absurd claims to discredit me. Why? So they can capture some of the people in my audience who aren't the brightest crowns in the box. That's a recruiting thing. Is this paranoia? Is this not paranoia? You are a psychologist, Karlyn. If I went and looked at cognitive behavioral therapy right now, and the things that you were saying, I guarantee you, you are doing everything opposite of what the cognitive behavioral therapists teach folks who have borderline personality disorder not to do. That's actually part of James Lindsay's thing, if I'm not mistaken, that he was noticing that all this is the opposite of that. Him and Jonathan Haidt, by the way. I'm very much into these things, humanities. If I went far in college, if I cared about university, I probably would be in the same fields you are. I'm sure that some people are LARPing and trolling because they have nothing better to do with their sad lives, but this is absolutely making its way to the mainstream. I like all these comments too have very little after them. Here's another example. I'm assuming. This is the language they're leaving in the comments on my channel to get people to unsub for me, blah, 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 blah. How many subscribers has Karlyn lost so far? I unsub because I can't stand people who lie and use smear tactics to label people they disagree with as white supremacist with zero evidence or legitimacy. There's no difference than the everyday Democrat. To be clear, I care less about losing numbers than I do on my channel about being used for recruitment for actual white supremacist movement. Where is the recruitment, Karlyn? You're not thinking like a rational human being right now. You're just not. That's not a recruitment statement. That is saying I'm unsubbing because you are lying and these are unfair tactics. It's plain English. There's nothing in between those lines there. I think Val Lindsay, I believe, is still a leftist. See, Brian says, I like Tim Pool. Yeah, I like Tim too, even though I disagree with him often. I mean, I've been watching Tim for a long time. I'm watching a guy evolve his beliefs. He annoys me sometimes, but hey, it is what it is. It's whatever. I think he does good work calling out the media, especially for normies. I think Wise was right when he said people who leave the left become the left turned on them. Shouldn't really be trusted. It takes them a while. One of the reasons why I like Karlyn's because she's approaching this often as a psychologist. It's when she doesn't. It's when she doesn't, she has an issue. Every time I turn her off, it's when there's drama. And she does get into drama a lot. She decides to blow up on people on her side, and suddenly the entire right wing grinds to a halt. Exactly. And this is the infighting. We just cannot have it, guys. This is a stupid battle and hill to die on. Yes, Karlyn, you are being stupid. Stupid, technically, as the term is applied, as a pragmatist, that you know better. You really do. You learned this lesson. It's the lesson that made you famous when you went to a Trump rally. And yet, here you are doing it again, like a year later. Year and a half, whatever it's been. It's sad. Val said, isn't Lindsay a former leftist also? Yes, I believe he is. He might still be, though, but he's not that crazy left, right? So there's a difference, guys, between Marxist and those who are like Tim Pool that want some social programs. And Tim's actually pretty strict about that. If you listen to him a lot, he's like, I don't want people being on it forever, and I want there to be limits and accountability and blah, 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 blah. Josh said, that's why I don't trust Lindsay either. I don't know about James. I didn't find out that Heather Penrose was a leftist, a socialist, until Karlyn made a video about her. I had no idea, to be honest with you, because I've only cared about the academic style work they've been doing on these subjects. I haven't really looked into their politics. Now I know Boghossian is a leftist, but again, The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I'm not here to kick everyone out that doesn't believe exactly the way I believe. The stuff's in our schools. And then that's another whole point where they're talking about, well, Syracuse, like, well, it's not taught in our schools. Then why are people in Loudoun County and other counties around the United States in their school boards making speeches to reject CRT? It is a fallacious argument to say it's not in our schools. Brian said, my thoughts exactly on Tim Pool. Well, there you go, buddy. Lindsay has at least shown he is willing to be mature about moving forward, Sam says, and he's slightly left-leaning. Yeah, here's the thing with Lindsay, too, is, man, he's been good with churches. He's been talking about wokeness infiltrating churches, and I'm pretty sure he's an atheist. And again, I'm not saying he's our friend, but he ain't my enemy right now, I can tell you that. Lindsay is to the right of Mal. There you go, Dollhawk, exactly. Lindsay's probably to the left of Sargon and probably in the Pool vicinity. That might be right, but I'm pretty close to Sargon myself. I mean, classical liberalism, depending on how you look at it, does not provide welfare. There are some classical liberals that do argue for that. I don't. I'm not one that advocates for that. I believe in the social structure of the church and other things like that. Community organization. That is literally community organization, not the leftist Marxist framing of that. Yeah, let me check the entropy real quick. I got Hair Juicer 3001 over there. Well, hello. And Josh says, Temple is like Carl. They're great on ramps toward the red pill. Well, Carl was definitely far more left. It's like Matt Christensen. I've been following them, Matt, nearly since the beginning of their live stream and have made a relationship with them as through being a Patreon and stuff. And Matt was a lefty. I'd never seen episode 0 to the other year. YouTube brought it up to me. Matt was a lefty. But a lot of us were at one point. I was never fully left, I would say, but I had a lefty ideals and didn't know any better until I came to a more libertarian stance in my mid-20s. So let's see. There's got to be a few more of these. This is the language they're using to make it seem like it's just natural opposition to what the left is doing. This is how they are pulling people in. Every time you see white, substitute black. Yes. No, Karlyn, that's not the language. That's called logic, right? Where if we just reverse the roles, it would be okay. What you're saying is that's not okay. He means white people. Yeah, we will never stop fighting for our people. What's wrong with that? What's wrong to fight for white people? Every time you see white substitute black, then see how much you cheer for it. Just like the old routine of all white people are inherently violent. You probably cheer for that. Now I'll say all black people. Still cheering? Right. Right. Because it's a gross over generalization. Again, Karlyn is literally practicing bigotry at the moment. The technical definition of bigotry. He means white people. Nothing is going to stop us from defending white people. Nothing. And then Lauren Witzke. So Lauren Witzke did a stream with no white guilt. Oh my goodness. Lauren Witzke, the Republican candidate that got the most votes of all time of any Republican ever in Delaware, including over Donald Trump. In Delaware, where they never vote red. Was it because she appealed to white supremacy? I don't think so, Karlyn. Go do your research, your homework. Did you watch this video? Here's an actual white supremacist. That anti-white language I'm hearing from at Republican events came from blah, 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 blah. What is your proof that he's an actual white supremacist? And I love this too, because our friend Yiz is in this chat. I was watching this live and I was like, oh my goodness, that's so awesome. She eventually goes and there's a thing somewhere where she highlights this. I'm not going to play this video, guys. It's just ridiculous. Language is the weapon and power is the goal. White well-being is the new terminology used online. White supremacy recruiting groups for those unfamiliar with CRT ideology underpinnings, narratives. So who's this guy? Media journalist coverage to radio subject matters. Oh, so this guy said so it must be true. Karlyn is correct. I'm afraid not, Karlyn. You have to talk to the people. You cannot just pull up a single statement from somebody. We've seen this happen over and over again. A good-intentioned organization is found at the start and everyone is enthusiastic. However, as time goes by, the anti-white system attacks the leadership of that organization until it renders it impotent. Therefore, that said, disintegrates and its members lose. The organization disintegrates and loses hope of their voices and ideas. White people must gather and unite along racial lines, just like other races do, or cease to exist. This time, however, it won't just be a particular organization group, but millions. Okay. Every and each one of us must be a leader and a champion of the interest of white people. We are one. Okay. And the responsibility for kin. Do not wait for X or Y to do something. It is up to you. At what point does any of this call for hatred of other racial groups? You have no evidence. I don't care what journalist A, B, C, D, E, F, G writes. I don't. You have to show me evidence. This is more evidence. Wokeism, a term that the victimizers of Western civilization use. Okay, correct. All it means is anti-white. When you use anti-white, you are reframing the conversation to focus on real issues. When you continue to use the term our victimizers tell us to use, i.e. woke, we cannot get to the heart of the matter. An institution is woke speak for reforming it into a Marxist. Karlyn, what is racist about this? Let's see what the replies are. Respectfully, I believe the media will successfully make an anti-CRT crowd look like a nest of white supremacists regardless of whether it was actually co-opted or not. Just like the OK hand sign is white supremacy, suddenly they can do anything. We can't stop it. Amen. Okay to that. Because that's exactly what this is. Modern Marxism is explicitly anti-white. Those ideas are not mutually exclusive. Stop being a wuss and stand up for your people. What did James Lindsay have to say? He's an anti-white, he's a identitarian racist, apparently, according to Karlyn. What did this thread have to say? There's no change here. One of these I had, guys. I got a lot. Actually had a, why this is just repeating like this. Actually had a photograph. I don't really care about Ron DeSantis and his kids and whatever else. And it had stuff like white well-being highlighted. And she's pointing to this. People are unsubbing from me because you said something stupid. Just admit that maybe you were in over your head, walk it back, apologize, listen to people. You came out off the bat. I'm going to block anyone that says otherwise. So you're just back to leftist tactics. So here, from Way of the World, critical race theory, or CRT, is the embodiment of anti-whiteness. It's supposed to give academic credibility to anti-white hatred, but it really does. All it really does is expose the anti-whiteness for what it is. Again, these are the emotional arguments. I already went through in the beginning the logical arguments about this. here it says, this person believes CRT is ultimately a good thing for whites, since several people are forced to live together and whites are completely barred from organizing among themselves. The other ones are organizing, and CRT is a seed plant for the genocide they're aiming at. The division is now clear. Okay. And here's the point. If CRT was directed at black people, it would be deemed racist. Would it not? Would it not? Let's see here, guys. Apparently, I closed my my bookmarks here unintentionally. Okay, yeah, let's do this real quick. So I'm going to show you real quick some of Karlyn's videos. We're going to look at some other stuff. So this was her thing today. A journalist reported on the matter. I will bring up those articles in a minute. It doesn't matter if a journalist brought this up. A journalist does not speak for all of the people using this language. The people using this language are not a monolith. Now, she sort of finally admitted that. For her, this was vindication. Quick stream update.
Well, we're live again.
So, let's go let's not even look at this one. Let's look at, oh, I didn't mean to do that. No biggie. We'll just do all this. And, let's look at this. Like her coverage of Jason Kunas is just ridiculous. But this is the original video. So let's look at this.
Okay, listen. We need to have a serious conversation about something that's going on right now in the fight against critical race theory. And I'm just going to say up at the front of this video, I'm going to get frustrated in this video because there are people in this fight that are behaving grossly irresponsibly. And if I'm not directing it at you, then my frustration is, if you are not doing the things I'm going to talk about in this video, this is not directed at you. It's not. But for those people who are doing things like calling critical race theory anti-white and trying to frame critical race theory as an anti-white movement, you need to stop right now. You need to stop. It is not helpful. It is not going to advance this fight. It is not going to win anything. What you're going to end up doing is creating an actual white power movement in this country. And that.
So first off, that already exists. It is nominal. So this is just, again, not intelligent. And again, Karlyn, I just think this has to do with your personality, your proclivities to things, and you not thinking this through. I get what you're saying. I semi-agree with you, actually. But this is not what these people are doing or representing. So here we go. Let's be clear. I do not care if you disagree with me. I do not care if you give the video a thumbs down. Ratioed pretty hard, isn't it not there? 1,000 up, 5,000 down. Without watching it because you're too much of a snowflake to have an adult conversation. Karlyn, you're the one blocking everybody. If you show up in my comments acting like a legit racist, I'll just know which people to block. Critical race theory is not anti-white, and if you're a straight idiot, if you think it is. So James Lindsay is a straight idiot, according to Karlyn. This has nothing to do with race. Hey, you know, it's called critical race theory, right? Pretty interesting. Critical race theory is not anti-white. Yet, literally 2 minutes later, critical race theory is incredibly racist toward white people. She does say that in the video. Telling children they are evil because they are white is sick. CRT only talks about erasing one group, and it ain't blackness. This ain't a game. We're literally fighting for our children's lives. Not only is it anti-white, it's anti-truth. And this just goes on and on and on. And there are a few YouTubers I liked in here. I saw like Dave, the distributist. Critical race theory is expressly anti-white. Your arguments are specious and seem drafted by leftists. Stop calling anti-white hatred anti-white. You. Yeah. Critical race theory is explicitly anti-white. We just keep going and going and going. I like here, baseline 11. No frogs. The water is not getting warmer. Don't be silly. Having Asian children is perpetuating Asian supremacy. That's the talking point coming from the universities these days, right? Yeah. Because the universities are saying, and all these CRT folks, all these postmodernists, all these intersectionalists, they are saying that having white children is terrorism. I have the infographics, folks. I can look up the articles. It's not hard. So I could go through all this. You guys can look at her chats. People are just bombarding her left and right. You know, again, I'm not one to suggest to do such a thing. I just think it's ridiculous. So then she did this happy hour stream. She got more flack. She did this anatomy of being canceled. I'm going to play that one because this is absolutely absurdly insane.
Well, 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 well.
Let me look at the chat real quick. I see a couple of you guys are talking here. 11 viewers and only 8 thumbs up. Get some plebs. Yeah, guys. Thumbs up. Like, share, subscribe. Hey, if you want, you can go over to Entropy. It is linked at the top, and you can donate over there if you would like. You don't have to. In February, my son came home with an assignment to write a paper titled "I Am Black History." Yeah. Look, I had to talk to my teacher. My daughter had a teacher a couple years ago. It was an English teacher that was teaching critical race theory, and everything with her was about Marxism and her being a lesbian and all this other stuff. Called my daughter racist and all this other stuff, which is just absurd on its face for various reasons, because I don't think my daughter actually hangs out with any white kids. But sure, she's a racist. In any case, yeah, this is just the reality of how these things are going, guys. And Karlyn's just not in touch. And I mean, the way I titled the stream, I titled it this way on purpose. I mean, she has a case of numerous fallacies, and she's got a genetic fallacy going on. She has she's been doing ad hominems, demagoguery, straw men. What else? An if-then fallacy, that is a false dichotomy. So she's creating a false dichotomy. If you're saying anti-white, then you're a racist. You're a white supremacist. If you're saying white well-being, no one says that anyone that says black or Asian or any other ethnic group well-being, Jewish well-being, is racist. Come on, Karlyn. Get with reality. Used to be kind of a lib back in high school. Yeah, a lot of people are when they're young. It was too liberal for me, for the Republicans. That's why they didn't like them when they were younger. I understand better. And I had a big government, big business. I believe in civil liberties. People talking back and forth. I know he's a MRA, but Dr. Rando Dahmerkin, I don't know this guy, had a great point about the name being positively framed. Euphemisms such as woke, social justice warrior, politically correct. Right. They all require some understanding of the background to understand why they aren't what they seem. Hey, Yiz. Good afternoon. saw you in there. So you guys are more or less talking amongst each other. Yeah, everyone who disagrees with me are racist and banned. Exactly, is exactly. All right, let's keep going on with this. Oh, that was the other thing is Bimu I wanted to say hi to. I missed earlier. So let's look at this in Cassandra Fairbanks and how crazy, literally crazy Karlyn is right here going off the rails.
It's always an interesting time, isn't it? All right, so right now, for the past 48 hours really, but the last 24 hours have been really bad. I am undergoing the worst cancellation that's come at me from the right so far. But don't fear, this is a video of hope. This is a video where I really do hope to articulate how to survive a cancellation and how to approach it. Because here's the thing. Cassandra Fairbanks has been doing this to me for a while. Now, let's just be really clear. I've never spoken to Cassandra Fairbanks. Have literally never had a conversation with this woman. It has never happened. I really didn't even have an opinion on her up until this morning. I woke up and discovered that her minions had been coming not to bully me, because they can't. I mean, they can, but it's just like not going to do anything. But what her minions have figured out is that I'm not going to relent under the cancellation. What they're trying to do, basically for like the last 48 hours, they've been trying to come at me to try to get me to cancel my account or deactivate my account or, you know, what have you, or to back down, bend the knee, whatever. That's obviously not going to work. I'm not going to play that game. So what they started doing was they started going and bullying people supporting me. They started mobbing people that were supporting me.
So again, Karlyn, where's your evidence that these people were sent by Cassandra? By the way, folks, storm is happening here right now. So if I drop off, please realize it's because of the weather. I just shut my curtains and blinds and all that because it's starting to come down hard. But where's her evidence? Let's keep going with it.
And this is where it crosses the fucking line. And this is when I start talking about this shit. And this is when I start exposing this shit. Because that, to me, is completely unacceptable. It is completely unacceptable to weaponize your audience, to bully other people's supporters because you disagree with my opinion. It is completely unacceptable in any way. So let's talk about what's going on.
So if you watch this, guys, I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing, just a few minutes of it. She leaves the screen up the whole time, shows no evidence for this claim that Cassandra sent her minions against her. That is, Cassandra sent minions to berate Karlyn. Perhaps you're an internet personality with a large following and a lot of people disagreed with you and you shouldn't have said a stupid thing, or you should apologize for it, or you should look more into it. Perhaps that's the case, Karlyn. Perhaps you are mistaken.
I have taken the position very publicly, and I'm sure this video is going to get brigaded and downvoted and all those things, and I don't really care. I have taken the position very publicly that I am not going to call critical race theory anti-white, because I don't believe it is. Critical race theory is anti-everyone. It is anti-every race. It is anti-everyone who disagrees with it. It is un-American. It is anti-liberty. But to characterize it as anti-white is it is, not only is it fundamentally wrong, because it's exclusionary of every other group this absurd ideology impacts, it's also incredibly dangerous. Because the minute that you start to spin people up around an anti-white movement is the minute that you actually start to create an actual white power movement. And people like Cassandra Fairbanks have enough followers to do this. And let's just be honest, her followers are already inclined in that direction. And
so this is a leftist perspective that if we talk about white people in any sort of positive light, that it will cause supremacy. She is here conceding to the critical race theorists that whiteness inevitably leads to supremacy. The end. That's what she is saying. That if white people in any way, shape, or form, people of European descent, and guys, I really hate having this conversation because I find it utterly freaking retarded that we have to talk about it like this. But regardless, she is right in that it does hurt everybody and it is against every race. But it isn't right, and that its primary weapon is CRT. Or sorry, not CRT, anti-whiteness. I'm sorry, I got distracted, guys. I heard my wife in the background saying something. I think I left her car windows open. And it's raining now, which means I'm in big trouble. In any case.
Anyway, as evidenced by all the little trolls who have been commenting on my live stream yesterday, who brigaded my live stream yesterday, and who commented on my video the other day and just downvoted it to basically prove that their dicks are the size of my pinky finger, whatever it happens to be. But her followers are already inclined that way anyway. I was talking, it's so funny because when you get canceled, people think that the most interesting conversations are the ones that you can see publicly. No, they're not. They're the most interesting conversations are the ones you do have in the DMs. Because I have my DMs open on Twitter. Anyone can DM me anything. And I don't necessarily have to read it or respond to it, but you can actually DM me things. And I got a DM this morning from someone who said, Karlyn, you're absolutely right about legitimate white power movements spinning people up using critical race theory and calling it anti-white, because I've been monitoring it on the internet for months. And I believe it. I absolutely believe it. I do events all the time. Like how my activism works in critical race theory is I'm really trying to focus on just like smaller groups around my community, because I really think it's the only way to fight back against it at the end of the day. And I'm trying to utilize those to figure out what works and what doesn't. And I utilize my online community too, whatever. But I do events all the time.
So she does events and small community stuff and whatever. I'm not going to go through all this again. Sorry about that, guys. I mean, I did get good news, though. And so, yesterday evening, I guess my wife had what's called bloody show. So, we've been waiting for her to have the baby. And now her mucus plug has come out. Although that's signs that she'll probably be in labor in the next 24 to 48 hours. So, that's pretty awesome. Holly says, females go on neurotic. Yes. You're one of those trolls? Yes. Came there to ask her questions and to challenge her ideas as well as invite her to a conversation. She called me a Nazi troll and banned me. Right. And yes, I've been talking about you. I mentioned you because I know you're very much into this movement. And I'm not against it per se. I'm just not in it. And again, I kind of do agree more with the kind of tactics that Karlyn's talking about, but it depends on who you're talking with. Optics are always a matter of who you're talking to and with, folks. You have to understand that. And there are different voices for different things. But to sit here and say all these people are anti-white is just insane. It's ridiculous. So anyways, I have all those tweets. Let's look at some other stuff. I got some other things. So let's consider this. Is this man a racist?
When you talk about critical race theory, which is pretty much going to be teaching kids how to hate each other, how to dislike each other, that's pretty much, I don't care what you say, it's pretty much what it's going to all come down to. You're going to deliberately teach kids, this white kid right here got it better than you because he white? You're going to purposely tell a white kid, oh, the black people are all down and suppressed. How do I have 2 medical degrees if I'm sitting here oppressed? How did I get, first of all, time up, because I only got 5 minutes now, 5 minutes. 2 medical degrees, no mom, no dad in the house, worked my way through college, sat there and hustled my butt off to get through college. You gonna tell me somebody that looked like all y'all white folks kept me from doing that? Are you serious? What's sickening about this whole thing is what y'all doing right now is already something I do in my community right now to speak out against stuff, because black folks are getting told by other black folks, oh, you ain't gonna be able to do nothing out there in the world because them white folks ain't gonna let you get no, oh, you're not gonna be able to do it here because the white man gonna keep you down. Well, how did I get where I am right now if some white man kept me down? How am I now directing over folks that look just like you guys in this room right now? How? What kept me down? What oppressed me? I work for myself from off the streets to where I am right now. You gonna sit here and tell me this lie of critical race theory? Of this the reason why black folks can't get ahead because of white folks? Are you kidding me? This is what we come to now. I can't believe we even talking about this right now. The last thing I'm going to say right here is something that's crazy. Martin Luther King said he wanted his kids to grow up in a world where they are judged by the contents of their what? Their character, not their skin. If they letting this stuff go on right now, it is absolutely doing the complete reverse of what he's doing. So when February comes, don't talk about Martin Luther King. When February comes, don't talk about Black History Month. Y'all gonna sit there and just pretty much pee on his grave with this nonsense? That's exactly what's about to happen. When it all comes down to it, the person that's gonna be suffering from this, the one's gonna be hurt from this, is the kids. 10 years from now, if this stuff goes on, whose fault is it gonna be? Whose fault is it going to be? Who we going to look back on and blame for this? Because this is stuff we talking about right now. This stuff is going on right now. I do this stuff on a daily basis. I'm in the hood. I'm in the communities. I'm out there with folks in their face. I've been doing this stuff since I was 18 years old, talking to black folks. And you know what? None of them are buying this nonsense. None of them are. But if you want to implement this into the school system, I guarantee you to the day that I die, I'm going to be the very person right there debunking stuff, tearing stuff down, letting them know they can do exactly what I did and get exactly where I am by putting themselves to work and getting there. And ain't not one white person ever going to keep any of them from getting there. So the CRT stuff, BS.
So is that guy a racist is the question. Karlyn. Is he a white racist? Or sorry, a black white supremacist? What about this lady? Exclusive Virginia mother who delivered fiery takedown of critical race theory speaks out. From May 13th, 2021, The Daily Wire. Let's see here. They want to send me notifications. I don't want that. Black mother, Chantel Cooper, was whisked into national spotlight after she delivered a 1-minute takedown of critical race theory to the Loudoun County Public Schools. It's not in the schools, though, guys. It's not in the schools. We're only fighting over it in the school boards, but it's not in the freaking schools. Okay. Let's watch. Oh.
In the words of Martin Luther King Jr., I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Now I have a dream that we will implement love, not hate, or supporting another Jim Crow's agenda. CRT is not an honest dialogue. It is a tactic that was used by Hitler and the Ku Klux Klan on slavery very many years ago to dumb down my ancestors, so we could not think for ourselves. CRT is racist. It is abusive. It discriminates against one's color. Let me educate you. An honest dialogue does not oppress. An honest dialogue does not implement hatred or injustice. It's to communicate without deceiving people. Today, we don't need your agreement. We want action and a backbone for what we asked for today, to ban CRT. We don't want your political advertisement to divide our children or belittle them. Think twice before you indoctrinate such racist theories. You cannot tell me what is or is not racist. Look at me. I had to come down here today to tell you to your face that we are coming together and we are strong. This will not be the last. Greet and meet respectfully.
Yeah. Is that lady racist? No, I know she didn't use the anti-white terminology. But come on. How about this lady? Black mother blasts critical race theory as not teaching the truth. So I probably won't be able to play the video on this because Fox has got to do all this crazy stuff. Oh my, come on. A black mom blasted critical race theory as racist during the Florida school board meetings, arguing that it's not necessarily if you believe that whites are better than blacks, in a searing takedown of the academic movement. Let's see, here it is.
In America, because they are black, is racist, and saying that white people are automatically above me, my children, or any child is racist as well.
That the United States of America is a great and wonderful land.
So this mom, again, a black lady, just pointed to white people. But according to Karlyn, she must be a white supremacist. Now, am I being disingenuous? A little bit. A little bit. But I'm doing it to make a point, guys. She wouldn't say that about these folks, but if your skin color is white, boy, will she say it about you real quick. Karlyn, you got a problem. You need to recant. You need to apologize. You need to talked to some people like Yiz. Yiz is in my chat right now. She was in the chat on Jason's video the other day. No white guilt that you, everything I don't know, a racist thing that he said. I didn't watch the whole video, but everything he said was just about standing up to this nonsense, and you called him a white supremacist repeatedly. You're saying that talking about white well-being is white supremacy. What else do I got? I got this. It's from a white kid.
Watch this 15-year-old.
By the way, guys, if you don't know high impact flicks or Grease Monkey videos, you should. You really should. Gets a little bit more into conspiratorial side of things or the super liberty-minded stuff, but hey, I take it from all over. I get the resources from all over, whether I 100% agree with people or whatever. He does good videos. He covers things that you're not going to see in the mainstream.
Old kid utterly destroy the practical application of critical race video on critical race theory. It's kind of interesting because it's really gaining momentum in the last month or two, but specifically it's been talked about a lot on mainstream media, on social media, on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side. And it's really interesting. What I've come to the conclusion of, and I listen to a lot of critical race theorists. I'm not just sitting here plugging into Fox News and finding out what Candace Owens and Greg Gutfeld think about critical race theory. I'm plugging into the people who actually wrote the books on these things, these so-called experts, these academic experts. And basically my takeaway from critical race theory is it is an instrument to distract, deceive, and divide us even more than we're already distracted, deceived, and divided.
Amen. That's exactly what it is. That's the point of it. Karlyn's not wrong about that. She's just going along with the distraction, the deceiving, and the dividing by making a hard stance about anyone who might be pro-white. Because apparently being okay with people of European heritage and them maintaining their heritage, apparently being okay with that is supremacy. That's an inherently leftist viewpoint, and she's wrong about it.
It's actually racism against white people. It's actually an anti-white agenda. If you're white, you're a racist. Carte blanche. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you grew up. I don't care if you live in a neighborhood of all black people and all your friends are black. You're a racist. It's an institutionalized systemic racism that's wormed its way into and is eating the heart of America and the world.
Bimu says high impact flicks went after my boy Mr. Uncensored. Well, I don't know either one of them were that case. I mean, look, man, I'll give props to Alex Jones when he's right about things, and he went after Bill Cooper, who I really like. Not that he's perfect or anything. Some years ago. So whatever. I don't deal with pettiness. I will watch people until they drive me nuts. I don't just get rid of my subscribership one way or another because someone did something that irked me. That's a problem with me as far as I'm concerned, not them per se. But I do understand why people don't want to bring in things that are distracting to their soul or their spirit that makes them feel, toxic or downgraded. So if any channel does that to you, of course I don't expect you to watch them.
Like battery acid. No, actually, critical race theory is that.
Here, let's say, I'll play this in a minute. It just says, it's all ethical, effective, a strategy to use it. That viewpoint is 100% Bolshevist, Marxist, a tactic against Slavs and others 100 years ago. Yeah, I agreed. Yes, agreed. And that's the thing is, do you think that Karlyn has any idea the depths about those tactics coming out of the left a year ago? Again, I've been studying this stuff for 15 years, guys. Now, do I claim expertise? No. But one of the things that I do, because it's just part of my personality, is I whittle everything down to their most basic elements, their first principles. And yes, there is always nuance between some things, but in the end, when we look at first principles, it makes it as simple as possible. Because again, we have this genetic fallacy that's going on with critical race theory where they go, well, no, that was just legal scholarship back in the 70s and the early 80s and blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter what it was at one point. It matters what it is now. Right? If all the critical race theorists were going, well, we're just following this legal scholarship and that's all they were doing, there would be no issue. And just like I said before, I would make this same argument against modern Christians if they said to me, "Well, Bill, you look at Christianity, you're coming up with a genetic fallacy because you focus on the origins of Christianity." Yes, what I'm saying is where you're at is not what the origins of the church where they were at. They're two different things now. So you can call yourself a Christian. I understand why that's accepted today, but I'm saying that I have this belief from centuries ago. From millennia ago. And so essentially, in the end, we're arguing two different things, right? And then you have to suss that out, figure out the nuance and whatever else. So Karlyn going back to the 1970s version is a genetic fallacy, unless she's saying this is just CRT from the 1970s. And this happened over on Adam and Sitch's show, 2 weeks ago? It wasn't this weekend, but last Sunday, where he had this guy on who was talking about it, who was a philosophy major, and getting his PhD in philosophy. And I'm really surprised with Aiden on there, Adam and Sitch, and who was the other guest? I can't even recall. What's his name? Sean from Actual Justice Warrior. I'm really surprised that none of them brought that up. Because they kept arguing around it. Because he was saying, well, I don't consider that critical race theory. Okay, fine. But let's talk about what's going on today, not what happened 30 some odd years ago when it's what's affecting us today, right? That kind of thing. So hopefully I'm making sense there to you guys. I'm not trying to dance around the issue here, but again, people are going back to critical race theory's origins and trying to say, oh, it's not what's being implemented today. Yeah, it is something else, but it's using that terminology. That's what we're addressing.
Because no matter what you do, no matter how much you apologize for the color of your skin, which you have nothing to do with, you are a racist and you have benefited from a white privileged system. But listen to what this kid does. This kid, in less than 5 minutes, completely disassembles critical race theory and lets adults know how kids actually feel about critical race theory.
Inside these schools. Despite the board's attempt to deny it, District 196 schools are quickly becoming a place where promoting activism is actually more important than promoting education. I'll take you back to my first day at RHS this fall. The principal came out and gave us a heartfelt speech about equality and standing together. He began to list countless races, such as Latino, Asian, expressing how much they matter and how important they are. But never once did he mention a race or identity that reflects me, or half the kids that were in the class. Now, members of the board, I know you haven't been...
And that's typically how it goes. The race that's excluded is the white race. Even though most white races, people who are white have different blood in them. They're not just all white, typically. But then what they try to say is, well, the white race oppresses other races, as though the white race, if you want to I'm just using their terms, I'm just throwing that out there, as though the white race was never oppressed. That's where we get the word slave. The word slave comes from the Eastern European Slavs who were completely enslaved for centuries and centuries. Horrible, horrible attacks against those white people, the Slavs. That's where we get the word slave. So it's amazing to me that people want to continue to pit us against each other because of something that none of us have anything to do with. And I know I constantly talk about what Martin Luther King Jr. said, but it's not about the color of your skin. It's about the content of your character. I don't care what you look like. I care about who you are. I care about, if you move to my neighborhood, how you're going to treat my fellow neighbors and my family. Are you somebody that we want our kids to be around?
You, or most of you, don't have any kids left in the school district. But you must admit how uncomfortable it will be to be characterized just by your skin color on the first day of school and be thought that you were wrong just because of your skin color. So I'll never forget the look one of my friends gave me from across the room as we were sitting there listening to this blatant bias being expressed in the so-called equity statement by the leader of our school. To be clear, I don't need you to tell me that I matter, but hearing the condolences given to other races and leaving just one race out, it inevitably you'll start to feel like you've done something wrong. And in our principal's attempt to unify us, he instead created unwarranted boundaries and barriers between his students, pitting us against each other based on characteristics that we can't control. In another separate instance, I was told that writing "All Lives Matter" on the whiteboard was political and could be seen as offensive. When I questioned the teacher after class, she told me that she didn't have an answer and she just had to erase it, and it was quickly erased.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what you do. Immortal AI says, my white ancestors helped free blacks in the Underground Railroad. To critical race theorists, it doesn't matter. You still have your white privilege. You could say whatever you want to. You can apologize 100 times a day on camera. You could say that your friends, and matter of fact, if you do say, my not be oppressed, well, you're still racist. Constantly, forever be ashamed. And like this, now I see color, and Europeans were like that. We're not going to let
signs all over RHS, about specific races that matter, specific sexual orientations that matter, and specific perspectives that matter. But when I questioned the RHS administration about how these signs were political, they told me that they were supporting human rights. So when I questioned why the equity statement couldn't represent all students, they told me that to even ask that question was outlandish and offensive. And when I asked why that was, they told me, quote, whites have a pretty good situation right now, unquote.
Whites have a pretty good situation right now, Karlyn. And of course, there are countless of these testimonies and people speaking up have been very recently, because they're just coming around to it in the mainstream. You guys can go find this kid. I'm not going to play any more of this. You kind of get the point. I want to read some chat real quick. I've kind of been neglecting DLive because it's hit or miss. But Yiz said, Karlyn is scared of white well-being because the prosperity of white people in white countries is anathema to those trapped in anti-white narrative. Right. And Val says, leaving work, but here is a little something as I head out. Well, thank you, Val, and Yiz for donating. Thief-in-Law says, she has blue hair, for Christ's sakes. I agree with Vince. She was definitely a plant. So there's that. Who was it? I kind of typed here wrong. Brian, you said high impact flicks reminds you of a left wing granola atheist. He's more like a sovereign citizen type, which, are no less, I don't know, unhinged sometimes. I'll put it that way. But let's see. There's a couple things here, especially to Yiz's point. I wanted to bring this up as a reminder of things. Let's see. So, different opinions about high impact flicks, either way. This boy is explaining the weaponized white guilt I talk about. Yep. Yeah, and that's where she's missing it, is how does it impact? Do you think children understand the complex intricacies of CRT? No. They understand that they're being villainized because of their skin tone, though, and they're starting off with that, Karlyn. Like, literally, how long did you think this through? Because I'm pretty sure you didn't. I'm pretty sure you didn't think this through in any way, shape, or form. I think you just thought, I'm going to take this stand, and people are saying, I'm hearing this a lot, and I don't like it. It offends my sensibilities. Well, you maybe should have explored it before taking a stance on it. I don't tend to take stances on things I don't understand. I'll be very milquetoast on something I don't have an understanding of. But I wanted to read from this a little bit, or just show you some stuff. I don't really want to get into it, but you might have remembered this article from Tablet from the other year. It says, America's white saviors. White liberals are leading a woke revolution that is transforming American politics and making Democrats increasingly uneasy with Jewish political power. Ooh. Through this article, though, he talks about basically those who are pushing all this, which is the white suburban housewife liberal. That is really what's pushing the majority of this. And then you have, some black folk and basically grifters, just as James Lindsay alluded to, right? And I believe if we get down somewhere in here, there's some data. I should have looked at this before. Here we go. Results among whites percent vary extremely often. This is, what is this? An example of how these psychological characteristics and moral foundations can be manifested in politics and policy can be seen in the graph below, which shows white responses to measures of empathy towards racial and ethnic minorities. And this is when you see someone being taken advantage of due to their race or ethnicity, how often would you say that they have tender, concerned feelings for people of other racial groups? How often would you say they better understand the people? Yada, yada, yada. But the major point is the very liberal people are very compassionate towards folks of their out group. And the more conservative you get, the more people focus on their in group. But look, even still, in the very conservative, they do worry when racial and ethnic groups are taken advantage of. It's amazing how the data shows where the priorities are. And we also know from Jonathan Haidt's data that care and fairness are the primary dimensions of the progressive liberals. So they care more about that than all of the other metrics like liberty or justice or authority. Mean group of in-race bias by ethnicity. Blacks prefer blacks. 15.58 on a scale of 0 to 20 to negative 20. That's pretty freaking high. Hispanics, also rather high. Asians, rather high. White liberals, though, have a negative in-group bias. They prefer out-group more. Do you see what I'm throwing out here? Because white liberals see everyone as babies. White progressives, they're the infantilizing mother from an archetypal point of view. Now, Karlyn, speaking to you, I don't know what you think of Carl Jung and his works, but I do like Jungian psychology, and I believe it's a useful, pragmatic tool. So perhaps you could argue with me on the merits of this, but what I would say is that this white liberalness that prefers the outgroup is the tyrannical mother. It is feminine energy that is abounded and out of balance with the masculine. And that's what's tearing our society apart. And what you just did was a protective mother thing that excluded a ton of people because your little boy was being hurt. And your little boy was, of course, the theory of critical race theory, the definition you gave of critical race theory. Critical race theory is blatantly anti-white. Is it anti every other race? Of course it is, because it's all about oppression, and those who wield it, it's all about their power. But let's not mince our words here. It is focused on making people feel guilty for a characteristic which they cannot control. So again, guys, American White Saviors is that article. I'm not going to keep going through all of it. Here's another one. White liberals present themselves as less competent in interactions with African Americans. Meaning, and again, I'm not going to go through all this, but this has been studied ad nauseum before about how they talk down to black folk and whatever else. White progressive liberal types talk down to other races, other ethnicities, because they think that those ethnicities are too stupid to understand them otherwise. They were trying to humanize themselves. It's why Hillary Clinton magically carries hot sauce in her purse. Absolutely absurd. Let's see. What else I have, though? I have a bunch of stuff. I have Cassandra, I have Karlyn, oh, look, I have a folder for Jason. Hey, Yiz, thanks for posting this up on your Twitter the other day. What does Jason have to say about, I don't know, this attack of a George Floyd mural.
And unforgivable. So we have this other issue. All these people are going nuts. They're sending the message. They're saying, hey, these people are heroes. These people have done this great deed. They went into some white sympathetic people, went into a non-white area of a city where there was a mural of Floyd. And they painted over that mural with white paint. And then they put up a bunch of stickers for their group. Now, I'm going to laud the energy and the where the desire to do something. I laud the energy and the desire to do something. But I absolutely condemn going in. There's nothing heroic about going into a non-white area and painting over a mural of Floyd with white paint, scaring potentially, I would imagine, some of the non-white children. Because why? Because in their world, and probably some of the non-white adults as well, in their world, and remember, everybody's living inside the anti-white narrative. And so in their world, white people who care about white people are demonic, and they have magical powers to be able to disappear behind buses. And
so are you getting what he's putting down here, Karlyn? Because of the indoctrination you've had, you see white people as demonic, and he's denouncing. Now, I know he said he lauded their enthusiasm, but he's denouncing their behavior, and he's about to make the case because of the perception of white supremacy. This guy that you went on about for 2 whatever hours the other day that you know nothing about.
And then, I don't know, reappear in your closet at home. I don't want, by anything that I do or anything that I suggest, a non-white, even adult, but a non-white child to be afraid about white people who care about white people. I want them to feel that they can walk right up to me, because they can, and ask about white well-being. I want them to feel perfectly safe, because they are in my environment, in proximity to me. Now, what does such an act do? I want everybody who looked at this and who were celebrating this on social media, and again, I absolutely laud the energy, the desire to do something, to make a change in the world. I absolutely laud that. And what I recommend for these young men is to go free. You can use the lexicon and dialectics in your group with your buddies when you guys go out together to work out or whatever it is that you do. And when you're going to, I strongly recommend that you watch the Going Free streams. You can ask questions. You can get ideas about how you can be effective for white well-being, which is what you want. You want to be effective for white well-being. But what you did was you were effective for anti-whiteism with this idiotic stunt. That's what you did. You're going to get some people, confused people, and crazy people lauding you on social media. But as far as reclaiming our destiny, helping any white people, you've done great harm by doing that. And if you can't see how, then maybe you'll never be able to see. This is going to go down to confirm the anti-white narrative that there is this hidden anti-white slur, white supremacist army in the United States and elsewhere around the world.
This guy right here saying this isn't the case. But let's not take him for his word, Karlyn. Let's take you for yours and what these people are that you have no clue about. You literally are absolutely clueless about this. And again, I am not trying to be polemic. This is just the case. You don't understand what you're talking about, and you have now demonized a great deal of people. But I'm going to let this play. I'm going to let this continue.
And they just want to prey upon non-white people. They just want to hurt them. Why else would they go? The average white person, the vague out there that we need to bring over to going free, is going to say to themselves, why else would these white supremacists, because that's what they are, why else would they go into a non-white neighborhood? No one there is going to join their white supremacist group. They're only there to terrorize. That's what millions, if they end up learning of it, will think about you and about all white people who care about white well-being. The act will go down potentially in laws and codes yet to be written, policies yet to be written, bills yet to be written, as an act of racist terrorism. That is how they're going to define it. That is how it's going to be used by the anti-whites.
So, do you understand, Karlyn? This is about framing and who has institutional control and using a dialectic to break the training. Now, again, I do not personally adhere to this. I do have someone in my chat, though, who tried to talk to you and communicate with you, who's a very intelligent person. Our friend Yiz the Eunuch. She's got a great YouTube channel that talks about some of these things and many others and this cultural war. But you wouldn't lend her an ear. I don't expect you to lend me an ear. I'm just going to make the video anyways and let it lie where it is. You're stuck in this mindset. Like, let's be real. It is absolutely paranoid and psychotic of you to be stuck in this mindset, to think anyone who thinks white positivity is supremacy. Those aren't the same words. They don't mean the same thing, and they don't relate to each other, nor is anyone espousing that. And if they are, those people espousing that, they're somewhere else. They're the alt-right or whatever. They're the Richard Spencers. Excuse me. Now, perhaps, there are a few people amongst our ranks who are racist. And as long as they don't act on that, as long as they don't go and hurt people and do whatever else, I really don't care. Because I'm not a thought police. And you shouldn't be either. And we have to understand that these kind of arguments are just simply petty nonsense. And you're being, Karlyn, frankly, a reactionary in the truest sense of the word. You're being a reactionary. You're returning back to your liberal progressive roots.
You have given them something and done nothing for us. Now, how smart does this sound? Yeah, but you went into, I bet people are saying now, well, they went into enemy territory. Well, first, there is no enemy territory. Everything is controlled by the anti-whites. Who was out there to oppose them? 16-year-olds on their bicycles, or no one? Middle of the night, or what could have been done is what I will ask now. What could you have done? And I'm challenging these guys with their energy, their zeal. They want to do something good for our people. What could have been done? Well, we don't have enough time here to talk about it at length. But if you're going to be pulling off any stunt that could do good for us, well, find a mural of this guy in an area that isn't non-white, or some other mural or statue or something that is clearly anti-white, and then do some sort of stunt that demonstrates that white people are harmed by whatever that is. You're smart. You guys are smart. Come up with it. Bring the focus onto the victimization of our people.
Now, that's an important point. Bring the focus onto the victimization. Why? Because from my understanding, he is using the left-wing tactics and he has flipped it. Not in the way that they use it, though. You're not seeing, Karlyn, despite whatever nonsense you just espoused over the weekend, you have in no way, shape, or form seen these people coming out like the Charlottesville incident. Have you? Because I'm pretty sure you haven't. Most of the people that I talked to who were protesters before, who may believe in using this type of dialectic or rhetorical device, they pretty much don't think it's safe to go out anymore because they know that they're being targeted simply for being patriots. And what you're doing is you're saying those same patriots that don't care, for the most part, what anyone's ethnicity is. They care about the culture of America, the creed of America. That's not an idea, guys. A creed is something that you state and live by. We are a creedal culture, and that has been absolutely ripped away from us because of globalism. But see, in my 15 years of study, Karlyn, I look back the last, 4,000 years of history. That's how I view the world. Now, you might be viewing it in this like 1960s civil right kind of terms and compared to today. And that's the indoctrinated world. That's the world of complete falseness, because I don't even think you understand why the federal government does the things that it does. That is a globalist organization, that we don't live in sovereign nations anymore. We live in global trading zones. Now, perhaps that's too based and too far right for you. I don't know. I'm a classical liberal. So what I want is national sovereignty. I want the smallest government possible. I'm practically an anarchist. I would say I'm a minarchist, but I'm practically an ANCAP. I want people to be treated with dignity. I want God in their lives. I don't care if you're some, form of sinner in some manner or another, as long as you're not infringing on my rights. Like, I don't really care about those things. What I care about is building a strong society that can work together and doesn't fight over petty, stupid things. Petty things that are basically infighting, destroying us so that the left can come in and just, pick people off. So you made a little adjustment from what I saw today, but I'm not saying everyone who uses anti-white. That seemed to be what you were saying on your Twitter, though, and you've made a dog whistle out of stuff that they're not dog whistles. By the way, it's pretty funny how you're not in these groups, but you understand and can interpret what those things mean. It's almost like you're acting like a leftist, that only you can hear those dog whistles. And I love when I talk about dog whistles with people because nobody knows the origins of it. I'll tell you where it came from. It came from Australia, and it was a stupid media accusation against a guy who was like, I forget who it was, someone running in the Australian government. It was like, oh yeah, we need to have stricter immigration. And that was a dog whistle for racism back in the 1990s in Australia. Why? Because the institutions are owned and run by the left, and you are indoctrinated and brainwashed. And all Jason is doing, from my understanding, is switching off that programming. But see, Karlyn, you have been paranoid and delusional. You have been someone causing drama. You're causing drama for things that you don't know about. And you've done it, like I said, often. Let's go back to your video list. So you have the libertarian stuff here is great. By the way, you're doing the same stuff as Gilletta. There's a thing somewhere in here, I forget when it was. It was a while back, where you went after Heather Penrose for the similar, right here it is. Or Pluck Rose. I keep saying Penrose, don't I? My bad, guys. Hopefully you know who I'm talking about.
So one of my most popular...
So I want you to watch this of Karlyn and tell me how this behavior is any different. Karlyn, if you ever watch my video, stay with me. I know it's long. We're over 2 hours now. I'm going to end here soon. But are you going to tell me that this is not what you have been doing to all these other people, the very thing that you are complaining about? Let me do a few things real quick, guys. I think that's about all I want to show you. You guys can go find the rest of that from Jason. I do have a bunch of other tweets and things. I have the article she looked up. You guys can go do that on your own. That is the article from the American Statesman. But I'm going to have to get out of here soon. So I've done as much as I could today. And as far as Jason's argument, he basically says, you guys did the wrong thing. You shouldn't be doing this. People perceive this as terrorism. They're stuck in this mindset. Knock it off. Stop being stupid. This doesn't help anybody. Any less than if BLM came into our neighborhoods and did the same thing. Right? That's essentially what he is saying. All right, let me pull this back up.
Keynotes ever is called Playing Politics.
Well, Ben Mew, glad you found this channel too, partner, because, you know, I've been trying to grow, and it's not easy with the current algorithm. Things just don't get picked up. And I don't normally do this. I don't normally go after other YouTubers, but this is just ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. It's immature. It's completely hyperbolic. There's no evidence to any of her claims. If she had evidence, she would show it. And I think last night she was saying, I have evidence. I can't show you the things behind the scenes. Okay, sure. She got messages from people, from her followers going, I've seen the white supremacy. I've yet to see an active group organize or talk to anybody in these spheres who are like, let's go down burn down a black church or something. That's not going on. That's not what this is about. But let's examine this behavior that Karlyn is so often portraying.
The psychology of the human workplace. Honestly, this is a talk that I developed over like a 5-year span of time. It's so good. It's so good. And it's actually all about the psychology of how you navigate the interpersonal relationships in the workplace. I have given this keynote all over the country at big conferences. This is actually a video. It was the first video I ever put on my channel back before doing all this stuff was just but like a twinkle in my eye. And this is actually a video of a keynote I did in Las Vegas at a big conference. And you can actually go watch the whole keynote. It's still there. I look awful in the video, but like whatever. It is what it is. The information is still good and it's still highly applicable to all of you in the work environment. And I bring this presentation up because you know who would have done well to avail herself of this specific presentation? Helen Pluckrose. Helen Pluckrose. Words I never thought I'd say. Listen, I don't tend to like focus on internet BS and drama, and very rarely will I actually make videos about it. But here is the thing. Helen has really insulted me.
So, I don't agree with that statement Karlyn just made. She often engages in internet drama from what I've seen. Not all the time, but she does. That's what's going on right now. She just made a whole thing and tried to gaslight a bunch of people over some internet drama. Now, go back through my videos and see what you can find about me pointing up things about other YouTubers and internet drama. It doesn't really exist. So I can make that statement. And I'm not trying to start drama with Karlyn. I would actually like to speak with her. But what she's about to claim that Helen Pluckrose did is exactly what Karlyn is doing right now.
And she's really pissed me off. And I want to make sure that everyone is clear about how we ended up in this place. Because, listen, I have told some of the biggest names in this space to go screw. Some of them I've done it very, very publicly. Some of them I've done it privately. And you have no idea who they are or that I have a bad relationship with them. And I don't regret any single bit of it, because I will very rarely attack someone proactively, but if you come at me and you insult me in any way, I will absolutely hit back every single time, because we teach people how to treat us, and I damn well want people to know that if you come at me, there will be consequences. I will very rarely proactively go after you, but if you're coming at me, you can expect a response of some sort. So how do we get to this spot? Because generally speaking, I had keyword had, a tremendous amount of respect for Helen Pluckrose. Truly, like, she's basically a socialist, and I don't agree with her on politics, but I found her to be a principled person, and I appreciated that about her, and I was always very fascinated to see her perspective on things, and I thought that she was just a fair-minded person. And so when she posted this last night on Twitter, I was genuinely asking her a question. Helen posted, getting a bit fed up with American libertarians telling me how much more freedom Americans have than Brits. You could certainly do with something like, or we could certainly do with something like the First Amendment, but when it comes to real life more broadly, it's just nuts to think that the US protects individual liberty better. And she posted a screen cap of this series of tweets that was basically kind of decrying the fact that employers can fire employees for differing political beliefs. Now, we're going to do a quick pause. Have you ever heard me advocate for the fact that employers should fire employees for different political beliefs? No. And you never would. I think that's stupid. It is just disingenuous and stupid to think that only one or two people in your organization have different political beliefs than you. And if one or two have it, it's very likely that probably 50% of the employees you have those political beliefs. Other people are going to see you firing those people because of their political beliefs. It's going to create morale problems across the board. I'm not in favor of this. However, do I believe that legislating against organizations being able to fire people for these reasons, A, is a good idea, B, is actually going to fix the problem? No, I don't. And frankly, legislation in this area would actually create less liberty, not more liberty, because people would have, like, I am a small business owner.
All right. So she's going to go on about this whole thing and difference between socialism and capitalism. I want to get into her debating Helen and the conversation going back and forth and watching her lose her marbles over it. So here we go.
Employ. And she responded, but I didn't see that response before I did a follow-up, not troll. And so I was just really curious. I said, genuinely curious, what liberties you think I should have that I don't? Honest question, not trolling. Employers can fire anyone for any reason or no reason. As a business owner, why should the government get to tell me I can't fire someone I don't want to employ? And she responded, but I didn't see that response before I did a follow-up. So I'm just going to read the rest of the thread that I wrote because I didn't see her responses when I was writing this thread. And then I said, there are exceptions to this to do it specifically because there are exceptions if they do it specifically because the employee is part of a protected class, but the employee has to prove it was that, which is next to impossible. Most employers don't give a reason. Citizens are not entitled to a job. I think there's actually one more, wasn't there? Hang on, let me just double check. Yeah, as just a matter of fact, everything I said is 100% correct. The vast majority of employees in the United States are at-will employees, and that means that they can be fired at any time for any reason or for no reason at all.
Now, and in part, guys, this is Karlyn's specialty. This is what she has a PhD in. This is organizational psychology. And they're debating over the ethics of liberty versus slavery, essentially, because Helen Pluckrose is a slaver. She's a socialist, you know, as I would put it in the metaphysical first principles. Yes?
Be fired for including Glenn Lowry in Black History Month. I think your children shouldn't be allowed to be taught CRT without counterviews and made to affirm them. I don't think you should have to pretend to be racist to keep your job. I completely agree with her. Everything I have done publicly for the last year plus will tell you that I completely agree with this notion. I said, I agree with you that none of those things should happen, but I don't think legislation creates more liberty, it creates less. Because remember, her whole start of this was like, Americans don't have any civil liberties. Okay, maybe not any. I'm being hyperbolic there, but like, I don't understand why Americans think they have more liberties than us. I'm like, this isn't liberty. It's not liberty to tell an employer they have to hire someone. If it wouldn't.
Agreed. And this is stuff like why I watch Karlyn. But this devolves. I don't want to have to watch this whole clip, guys. I haven't watched it since it's been out. When was it put out? May 25th. So there you go. And
it wouldn't change people's minds. They just give a different. This is honestly one of the most insulting things. And this is honestly This is honestly one of the most insulting things that anyone has ever said to me. And Helen actually said later in this conversation, someone replied to her later on, like, maybe you just don't know Karlyn's work. And Helen replied, I'm familiar with her work. So, like, so you guys have to understand, if you're maybe new to me, new to this channel, I started studying workplace bullying before the grievance studies affairs were but a twinkle in Helen's goddamn eye. I started studying workplace bullying in like 2008. I studied it for over a decade. It was a soul-sucking experience. I have done more to help people in toxic work environments and toxic work situations than Helen has, and not by a little bit, because I've been working in this for over a goddamn decade. This is what I do. I completely shifted my career, went back to...
So, point is she's offended because Helen blew off her credentials. And I don't know, Helen, what's going on with any of this. I don't really care. To me, it's two women getting in a cat fight. And I really don't care. I stay away from this internet drama. When I was younger, I used to get involved in it. And Karlyn, if you ever do see this, I know you said something the other week about being older than somebody. I don't know how old you are, but unless you're 40, you're not older than me. So, not that matters or I care about it, but I'm just saying, just to throw that out there before we get into all that.
I have done significantly more work in this area than Helen. So I need you to have that preface to understand why this pissed me off so much. She said, well, okay then, you won't mind the current problem of people being fired for not adhering to critical social justice ideas or declining to undergo unconscious bias training, where trainers are allowed to access their minds, claim to find racism there, and retrain their brains. I'm sorry, what? I wouldn't mind that? I have brought up a completely valid, completely legit in the workplace because I have different solutions than her to the problem. I give up on life, what the hell? And I was actually genuinely like, again, this is something I'm like genuinely just like confused. I wasn't angry at this point. I was just really confused. And she said, no, I don't think you said anything about what the solutions you recommend are or how they differ from mine. You just said people don't have the right to a job, which is absolutely, positively, completely untrue, and I'm going to prove it. I respond, I literally did. And you literally responded to the tweet with a pitch about counterweight. Let's see. Where did I respond this? Because I know I actually showed her screenshots at some point. Hang on.
Good Lord, this is stupid. All right.
I read this, I was like, Helen Pluckrose doesn't know who I am. Which is fine. Not everyone needs to know who I am, even people I suppose that have actually been interviewed on my fucking channel. But like, I was just really thoroughly confused by it. And so I said, Helen, I need you to ask a mutual contact that we have who I am, and I suggest really not saying anything else until that's sorted. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm saying, I know you know this person, and I want you to go and ask them who I am and what I do. Because at this point, I'm starting to get pissed. And there's a research specialist, but in the United States...
Guys, I just don't want to keep going through this. It's going to be forever. Look, the bottom line is it came down to Karlyn going, you know who I am, and Heather eventually blocking her because she didn't agree. And then Karlyn complains about that she was blocked. So this behavior that she's doing now to others, I'm sorry, I probably could have ended stronger than this, but that behavior that she's is claiming that she's going to do to others now about blocking them and whatever else is exactly what she just complained about from Helen Pluckrose. So I feel like I've been saying Heather Penrose this whole stream. So forgive me if I misspoke, as I can be prone to do it from time to time. In any case, guys, I am going to get out of here in a few minutes because Yiz wants me to come over on Dragons of Discord today, and I'm going to give that a shot, and that will probably be the last thing that I stream this week, because it looks like we're going to be having a baby in the next 48, 72 hours. We'll see. Hopefully it'll be here. So let's go through some chat real quick, just make sure I'm caught up. And you guys, again, we're kind of talking amongst each other. Yes said that, of course, I responded to. It says, I'm not reaching out to her again. I've done it twice, and I was met with hostility from her and her followers, name calling and blocking from her. Yeah, I'm very tactical about those things. I've reached out to her in the past twice via email, and I messaged her about the libertarian thing the other week on Twitter, but she doesn't engage with folks that she doesn't want to engage with. And that's fine. I'm not suggesting anyone does. So I'm just saying that Karlyn, look, I remember watching her before she had 100,000 subs, or probably even 70,000. But she seems to have that stance of, I'm not going to go on smaller channels or do whatever, or misrepresent myself, or I don't know. I also get it as far as the time investment with people in their businesses and their work. For me, I think, build up everyone in the community. And if you're not my enemy, then you're my friend. And if you're the enemy of my enemy, then you're my friend, at least for now. So, because there are bigger fish to fry. Yes, says this woman speaks like a university communist. Yeah, no doubt. Are we sure this isn't an Antifa psyops? She could just be a Fed there. Yes. I mean, she was at the Capitol, but not at the riot. Conspiracy theories abound. We're just talking about cars in the UK and other stuff. Try starting a small business. Yeah. You guys are talking about the UK being terrible. Yeah, it is. And socialists are like, we haven't had enough socialism yet. All the socialism we've been implementing for the last 100 years, that it's capitalism's fault for holding us back. It ain't us. It ain't us ruining the money supply or basically impoverishing people or infantilizing them to the point where they basically just expect payouts and don't have to work for life. And it's cruel. It's cruel to make people work, folks, if you didn't know. All right, I'm about done with the hat for the day. I figured come out a little redneck. My hair is a little crazy earlier, so I had to tame it. But guys, it is just a very, very sad state of things. Oh, wow, Sam. Thank you, buddy. Sam says over on the entropy, not sure if you see this before ending the stream, but here to wishing you well with a new baby. Well, I will. I appreciate that, Sam. I will probably have some sort of charity stream if you guys want to do that. $5-10, whatever. If you guys want to help out with baby diapers, help pay the bills. So, in any case, Yiz put in mainstream link here at the bottom. It's not going to show up in my stream, Yiz. I'm not capable enough with the tech stuff to know how to let other people link stuff in my chat. Bill is the most handsome man I talk to online as far as I'm concerned. Well, gee, I appreciate that. Let me see if I can get your Dragons of Discord up. Yes. Oh crap! You know what? I forgot. You're not YouTubans anymore. I'll at least get the Odyssey in there. Well, it'd be nice, if DuckDuckGo would take me to Odyssey. Here we go. Only like the 15th link down. Well, this is not what. All right. Well, another time, guys. I don't know. Yiz is going to be live. What? Yiz on D Live, Odyssey. Where else are you running out at right now, Yiz? Before I get out of here. Let's not talk about my looks in the chat. So, Don's beard's definitely better than mine. I got this patchy thing here. It fills in as it gets longer. I got some under here if I shave it down. But, yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to get out of here. It's about 5:30. It's not quite, but I did start a few minutes early. I appreciate you all for being here so much, so much. Thank you all for showing up. I hope I did a good job. Oh, thank you, Yiz. Yiz will be on Discords of Dragons. That is at Yiz the Unix. On D Live, Trovo, Entropy, and Odyssey. Thank you for putting that in the chat, Yiz, so I could chill it out. She will be live at 6 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be over there looking at memes and having fun, I guess. Hopefully my brain's not fried after talking for the last 2 hours as seemingly it was at the end of last week. So my wife says I'm pretty cute. I don't know. I think she lies. She just wants me for my money. In any case, guys, appreciate y'all for being here. Karlyn, again, not trying to be polemic. Just saying, you're saying crazy stuff, lady. Please, I would literally like to have a very nice conversation with you. I doubt you're going to give me the time of day, though. And you're probably just going to call me some sort of racist because, well, you've done lost your mind. But whatever. Folks, looks like I'm probably going to go dark, too, like I said, once again, because I think my baby is about to come. My wife's about to go into labor, so that's awesome. In any case, if this is the last show I do for a week or so, thank you all for being here. Please like, share, subscribe, send it around. Let the world know. Yeah. Let the world know that All Minus One is the best channel you've ever seen in your life. Not in any way, shape, or form, but hey, I do what I do. Thank you all for coming once again. And hey, this has been All Minus One. My name is Bill, and I wish you all well.